It's a calm summer morning in the year 793 on a small island off the coast of England. On that island sits a monastery, quiet, wealthy, and defended by nothing but prayer. The monks look up from their work and see three strange ships cutting fast toward the shore. They aren't afraid. Why would they be? Nothing like this has ever happened in anyone's memory. By the time the sun goes down, the monastery is burning. The monks are dead or dragged off in chains, and the world has quietly changed forever. The Viking Age has just begun. But here's the question almost nobody stops to ask. Who was the first Viking? Who was the very first man to do this? And where did he actually come from? The answer turns out to be far stranger than you'd ever expect, because there was, technically, no such thing as a Viking at all. Not a tribe, not a race, not a people you could be born into. The first Viking was not born a Viking. He was made into one. It runs deep. Let's get into it. Start with the word itself, because it's been quietly fooling people for centuries. We throw around Viking like it's an ethnic group, a kind of person, the way you'd say someone is Greek or Egyptian. It never meant that. The people we're talking about were Norse, Scandinavians from what's now Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. Viking was something you did. To go Viking meant to sail off and raid. It was a job, a verb. A man could spend almost his entire life as a quiet farmer and be a Viking for one single summer. So if a Viking is just someone who does the raiding, then the first Viking isn't a person born with a dark destiny. It's simply whoever first climbed into a ship and went and did it. Which means that to find him, we don't go looking for a bloodline. We go looking for a date. The very first time someone pushed off from a Scandinavian shore, crossed the open sea, and attacked. The famous answer is that monastery in 793, a place called Lindisfarne. And it wasn't just a robbery, it was a horror that echoed across all of Europe. A respected scholar of the time wrote in pure shock that no one had ever even imagined such terror was possible, that a pagan people could come screaming across the sea and tear apart a holy place. But here's the twist. There may have been an earlier one still. A few years before, around 789, three Norse ships landed on a beach in southern England. A royal official rode down to greet them, calmly assuming they were merchants come to trade. They killed him on the spot. That nameless moment on a quiet shore may be the true first Viking, a man whose name we will never, ever know. Which raises the real question. Why then? Norse people had existed for ages without any of this, so what suddenly turned an ordinary farmer into a raider who could terrorize an entire continent? The answer isn't a sword, and it isn't a god. It's a boat. The Vikings had just perfected the longship. Fast, light, strong enough to cross open ocean, yet shallow enough to run straight up onto any beach. It let them appear out of nowhere, strike before anyone could possibly gather a defense, and melt back out to sea before help ever arrived. The longship didn't just carry the first Viking across the water, it created him. But a fast ship only matters if there's something worth taking. And here is where the whole thing clicks together. Just across the water from Scandinavia sat a world of fabulously rich monasteries, buildings stuffed with gold, silver, and sacred treasure, run by unarmed monks who had never once imagined being attacked from the sea. Meanwhile, back home, good farmland was limited, and there were far more ambitious young men than there was land to hand them. Put a hungry young man, a fast boat, and a defenseless treasure house into the same world, and the first Viking wasn't born out of cruelty at all. He was born out of opportunity. Now let's be honest about something, because the full picture matters here. Almost everything we know about those first raids was written down by their victims, terrified monks. So the picture of the Viking as a pure, mindless, bloodthirsty savage is a deeply one-sided story. And while we're at it, let's kill the single biggest myth of all, the horned helmet. Vikings never wore them, not one. That's an invention from opera and stage costumes in the 1800s, thousands of years too late to be real. The actual Norse were also master traders, skilled farmers, and some of the greatest explorers who have ever lived. They reached Greenland, and even North America, a full 500 years before Columbus did. And here's the one last piece I saved for the end, because it changes how you see every bit of it. The first Viking was not some special savage breed of human. He was an ordinary man, a farmer, a fisherman, somebody's quiet son, who, on one single day, climbed into a fast ship and made a choice. The choice to take instead of to trade, to raid instead of to farm. Viking was never something written into his blood. It was a switch that almost any ordinary man could reach out and flip. And that is the genuinely unsettling part. The thing that made him a Viking wasn't hidden somewhere inside him. It was a decision. So go back to those 3 ships sliding toward the monastery on that calm summer morning. They weren't carrying monsters. They were carrying men who had just discovered that a fast boat and a single decision could turn a nobody from a cold northern farm into a name the entire world would fear for the next 300 years. The first Viking wasn't born under some dark and bloody star. He was made in the exact moment someone pointed a fast ship at something worth taking and decided to go. That one decision lit the fuse of the entire Viking Age. And it all started with one man in one boat on one perfectly ordinary day.